But first, joining us live from New York is Russia's Deputy Ambassador to the United Nations, Dmitry Polyanskiy. Deputy Ambassador Polyanskiy, it's a great pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. If I could just ask you, if you could clear up a bit of uncertainty, are significant numbers of your troops being removed from the area around Ukraine?
I think it was just planned removal. We were warning about it. We were saying that we are conducting training, military training. It had certain date, and it was supposed to last for some time. So some part of our troops, as far as I saw on the internet, are being withdrawn. So there is nothing extraordinary there, just a routine which was planned before.
But explain to me, I mean, since, you know, many of your colleagues have poured scorn on the warnings from President Biden, our own Prime Minister Boris Johnson, that you're poised to invade, why on earth would the West make the charge that you're poised to invade Ukraine? What's in it for them to make it up?
I don't know. This is a very ridiculous situation. There has been hysteria, even hype fanned for several weeks by our Western colleagues. They convinced each other and the whole world that Russia was about to invade. They were even naming concrete dates. So it happened in their minds, in their heads. We're not responsible for what's happening in their minds. So why should we be related in any terms to what they are trying to promote? Is their fantasies, and they're responsible for these fantasies.
And so, just to be clear, you can reassure all of us that there's literally not the faintest chance of your troops crossing the border into Ukraine. Not the faintest chance.
Not on our initiative, of course. If we are provoked or attacked by Ukraine, then as any normal country, I think we might contemplate some kind of response. That's what my president repeatedly indicated. Otherwise, I can't imagine why Russian troops on Russian territory pose any threat to Ukraine or to anyone else. This situation happened before. It's not the first time that we move troops on our territory in different directions.
But not quite on this scale for as long, though, surely. This does feel to the world unprecedented. Well,
first of all, I don't know who counted them. I heard that there was some British intelligence, US intelligence, but we don't trust them. I think there were a lot of situations when these intelligences were absolutely wrong in their calculations or even miscalculations. It's enough to remember weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So I never counted these troops. I'm not specialist in military matters, so I don't know the numbers. They say in Western press 100,000. Yesterday, President Biden said 150,000. So it's clear that inflation is very high these days in the United States. Everybody knows this. Nobody is speaking about 120,000 Ukrainian troops along the line of contact in Donbass, which really pose big danger to Minsk agreements and to the only internationally recognized roadmap for settlement of internal Ukrainian crisis.
I mean,
this is a much bigger headache. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that your president has consistently said is he doesn't want NATO expanding, and he says that at the end of the Cold War, Russia was given assurances that it wouldn't expand. But I mean, you know, we've all been busily looking for where these assurances might have taken place, and we can't find any evidence of those assurances.
Well, I think you have a very short memory, and maybe you can't use Google properly, because there are a lot of documents like this, and the documents were published here in the United States since I came here. I'm not a specialist in this domain, but if you're curious enough, you will have a lot of records from meetings, memoirs. What's true that there has been no document adopted because everybody in the Soviet Union at this point thought that we can trust the West in this regard, that there was kind of a gentleman's agreement, which was not the case. And now that's why we are now looking at requesting ironclad legal guarantees for our security.
And so a couple of other things. Over in the West, there is an idea that Ukraine may be able to say they wouldn't contemplate joining NATO for a decade or so. Would that reassure you?
I think it's a question for my colleague, Ukrainian ambassador, that's sitting next to you, whether Ukraine is ready to make such a decision. We don't want.
But how important? But how important would you see such a statement?
We're seeking assurances from NATO, and Ukraine is only one piece of this puzzle. It's over-exaggerated. Of course, it's important. Ukraine not joining NATO and NATO infrastructure not coming to Ukraine, but the picture is much bigger than Ukraine alone.
And very finally, we saw some cyber attacks on Ukraine's military, its banks yesterday. Did they come from Russia?
You know how it is in the cyber world. It's very difficult to retract and to find who is behind cyber attacks. This is common knowledge. I think it was denied by my country repeatedly, and it could come from anywhere. It could come from the United States, from Europe, from Ukraine itself. I don't know. So it's really impossible to blame and shame cyber attacks. We are actively cooperating with the whole world, with the United States on cybercrime. So I don't see any reasons for finger pointing at Russia in this regard.
Deputy Ambassador Polyanskiy, it's a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.